Let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, our business and data correspondent Brian Chung, and Jonathan Allen, NBC News senior national politics reporter. Kelly, we're seeing a pretty significant change in tune here. Is the White House finally backing down? What happened?
Well, we've seen episodes of aggressive tariffs or aggressive policy and then a backing off. And that has been a pattern for President Trump. And certainly other kinds of factors can be an influence on him. It might be the whispering in his ear by his most senior officials. It could be sectors of the marketplace where officials have been able to communicate with him about their concerns about things like tariffs, an understanding that the markets have been responding in convulsive ways at times to his policies, and the president trying to navigate this terrain in what has been a very long-held set of views on his part regarding tariffs, and now we've seen some short-term pain that he has talked about. He did discuss his views on Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, who he has been very critical of publicly, but says he does not intend to fire him. That is the head of a separate agency, and under law, the president appoints the Fed chair, but is not to fire them except for cause. And he is certainly responding to the fact that China tariffs are onerous in terms of the supply lines and all the kinds of goods that come into the United States. So here's a little about the president's view in the most recent moment when it comes to these matters.
I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not, but it would be good timing.
Powell and the Reserve Board, of course, are in charge of monetary policy in the U.S., and they're trying to calibrate the large-scale issues from where unemployment sits, where interest rates are, the potential for tariff damage or consequences, all of that, and trying to keep the dollar steady.
And Jonathan, Politico is calling this economic course change we're hearing from President Trump a case of the yips. They note he has swiftly been discarding reciprocal tariffs when markets wobbled, now sounding extremely keen to end his trade war with China. The president apparently abandoning the firing of Powell. Politico putting it this way, quote, even Donald Trump has to kneel before the altar of the market. Is that how you read things?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would put it in exactly those terms, but sure, the president can read polling, which shows that he's less popular than he was when he came into office, and he can read the daily changes in the markets. And I think what's even more interesting and probably alarming to him is that money is no longer going into U.S. currency. And so when people are pulling out of their securities, they're scared of what has been the standard reserve for the world, the U.S. dollar. And that really threatens economic havoc in a way that sort of the daily Dow ups and downs don't. So, yeah, I mean, he can read. He sees that there is a lot of discomfort with his plans, and I think that's exactly why he's reversing course. And who knows? But the problem for him going forward is that the instability that he has fostered in the last several weeks is every time he reverses something, he creates greater instability. And of course, the market wants stability, businesses want stability, families want stability, and so he risks becoming less and less popular the more he keeps darting around.
And less credible. It's like, what do you believe? Can he honor his word? Brian, Axios is reporting this morning that his meeting with CEOs of Walmart, Home Depot, and Target spooked the president after they reportedly told him it would lead to empty shelves and rising prices. We're already seeing impacts. Is there still time to avoid that?
Yeah, well, I mean, and you could imagine that in those discussions, which, we haven't matched the reporting at Axios, but we do know that there was that meeting between Home Depot, Walmart, Target executives with the president, that the big topic was likely tariffs. Because when you think about those types of retailers, what are they selling? They're selling toys that are made in China. They're selling lumber that could be tariffed under Section 232 tariffs that the Trump administration has been floating out there. So those costs would then get passed on to the consumer. Consumers like like you and me that go to Home Depot or Target or Walmart on a daily basis. So they are really worried about the impact of these tariffs, really worried about the 145% tariff that's on China. And I don't know if there's a coincidence there, but it is interesting that just days after that conversation and days after, I should point out, a pretty nasty Wall Street selling session on Monday, maybe the president was kind of reversing course and thinking, all right, well, maybe we should turn down the temperature on China. I want to point out, Anna, that in just the last few minutes, we did get the remarks from Scott Bessent, this Treasury Secretary. He's speaking to a group in Washington today. He did say that more than 100 countries have approached the United States wanting to, quote, help rebalance global trade. That is a higher number than the 70 countries that we had last heard of. So it does sound like the administration is engaging in some sort of dialogue, although there's nothing to report on as of right now in terms of any sort of deal being inked bilaterally with any country so far.
And the secretary there in these live images of this speech that is being streamed on the web. Kelly, there are obviously the impacts of the tariff policies. Also, what we've seen with Elon Musk going and slashing and burning all these federal agencies and positions. Elon Musk now announcing that he's going to be significantly scaling back his role with Doge amid a massive drop in Tesla earnings. So is Doge done?
Overall, Doge is not done in the sense that he sort of stood up a team, and it's our understanding that some members of that team would continue that work. Its work was intended to be short-term, and that was always known about Musk and those that he brought in who have been crunching the numbers and rooting through the federal systems at various departments. As a special government employee, he has 130 days of federal service that he's allowed to give before he would have to do financial disclosure and a lot of other things that other federal employees are required to do. So we've known it would be temporary in some form if he adhered to the policy related to special government employees. So that gets him to the end of May. Obviously, he has obligations to his companies. The president has talked about that. Musk has talked about that. Musk, incidentally, is not in favor of high tariffs, and he's been an influence point on that as well. But certainly when Tesla has taken the kind of hit that it has in its stock price, he is obligated to his shareholders. And so in speaking with them, talked about wanting to devote more time among his many businesses, but to give time to Tesla. So the end of Musk as a constant fixture around the president and around the White House, perhaps that's on its decline. But we'll certainly be looking for that over the next few weeks to get a measure of how involved he remains. He, of course, has often been with the president, not only here at the White House, but at Mar-a-Lago and so forth.
Yeah, those Tesla earnings, Brian, showing a huge hit. Profits down 71% for the quarter, and pointing to apparently tariffs and the, quote, political environment as the reason there. Is even Elon Musk now bowing to the bottom line?
Well, I mean, there is certainly market pressure for Elon to return to the company. When you look at the earnings, you do not like these numbers at all. As you mentioned, net income down 71%, auto revenues down 20%. Really, all of this breaks down to you are a car company. Car deliveries were down 12% year over year. So that is not a good earnings report. You've been hearing of investors that have said, look, Elon, you got to refocus your attention back onto Tesla as opposed to this side project with the government. And it sounds like he is intent on doing so. He said on an earnings call yesterday, as you pointed out, that he would be paring back his role with Doge. I don't want to point out it's not entirely done. He said he would still basically work with the government on a part-time basis, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, continuing to work on government-related matters as the president requests him to do so, but that he would be refocusing the majority of his attention back to Tesla. Now, is that enough to turn the car around, not to make a pun here, on Tesla? I do think the question here is that tariffs are still very much a big picture for this company. They have, first off, the reputational damage of people vandalizing dealerships and also, car chargers, because they're the association of the brand with Elon Musk. That could damage demand, but they're also navigating these car tariffs, 25%, which could impact Tesla as well. So this is very much just the beginning of his journey as he goes back to Tesla to try to figure out what's going on with this company. But again, pretty big and substantial story with the the market pressuring him to come back.
Yeah, Elon Musk taking a hit with his business, also his brand, as you mentioned, and now there's been this coupling between Elon Musk and Donald Trump politically, as we've seen Doge do its work in these early days of the Trump administration, Jonathan. And the New York Times did a review of several recent polls that found Americans largely like the concept of eliminating fraud and government waste, but they do view Elon Musk and Doge negatively. Does that have any political consequences for the president himself, who gave Musk so much power to just do whatever he wanted?
Yeah, I mean, I think it reflects on the president. I think it's reflected again in, those poll numbers for him that are down. I think you're right. People love the idea of cutting the government and paying fewer taxes in sort of the broad generic sense of those things. But when you actually get to the specific cuts, that's that's why it's difficult to do it. That's why presidents don't try to do it very often, because it is unpopular when you cut, biomedical research grants, or you cut funding for national parks, things like that. So, I think ultimately Musk has absorbed a lot of that heat for Trump, and specifically somebody who his critics can point to as a villain. The richest man in the world cutting government services for everyone else is a pretty easy storyline. But ultimately, I do think it reflects on Trump, and I think we're seeing that in some of the poll numbers.